It'll be 5:33. 7:28. What's the call order? Water Solutions. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. I hope everyone had a great holiday season so far. Good.
You as well.
Start things off. We have minutes to
I didn't see any minutes come through today. Did you guys?
I would love.
Yeah, I don't think you
It's okay. It's fine.
No.
That's fine.
even next time.
That was fine. And we'll get right into it. Superintendent's updates.
Okay. Last meeting we talked about, I believe it was last meeting, our capital budget request for a truck and an excavator. We had, after discussing with Weston Sampson about some samples we had taken in the system for TTHMs, we had a last minute change to our proposed capital. We added an aeration system in our 2 million gallon ground tank on Cottage Street. Once this is installed, it'll help remove some of the compounds that make up TTHMs. We're trying to specifically target chloroform. That seems to be our highest level, which is the main contributing factor. And that has been tracked by our most recent MCO exceedances. This is in conjunction with our altered flushing techniques and the possibility of adding less chlorine and pH adjustment, which we're still going to try to work with DEP on.
So if we turn it over, that'll help.
It should, because I think the samples we took of the tanks, I think are a contributing factor, for sure. So we think that along with trying to lower chlorine and the pH, all three should help for sure. I mean, we did our flushing that we anticipated on doing, and it did bring the numbers down. That's actually our next update. Our last round of TTHM samples were all below the 80 parts per billion. So the quarterly exceedance we didn't exceed, but because our last quarter was so high, and we exceeded the long running annual average. So it's actually locational running annual. So because we exceeded that, we have to put out a public notice that's going out in the mail tomorrow, and we'll have something in the paper next week. But thankfully DEP approved what we put in, kind of explaining that this last quarter, basically we're putting a notice out for water that's 3 and 6 months old. You know, the water we sampled most recently didn't exceed, but so they let us explain that, which was nice. And we put in that notice our plans for continuing to flush, and we didn't really get into the aeration exactly, but we have things in the works. So that's kind of what we put down there. The nice thing about that notice too is it does say this is not an emergency with bolded underlined letters. So hopefully most people take notice of that. There's also a really helpful link. If there's anyone out there that's watching, there's a really helpful link on the notice that kind of gives a breakdown of TTHMs and kind of pulls people back off the cliff that they may be standing on after getting that notice. So there's a lot of good information on that. Hopefully we'll continue to see those results lower than the 80 parts per billion that's required. We were just under this time. We're kind of hoping if we can stay under or well under, that hopefully it'll take us out of the average. I wouldn't be surprised if we have to post another one next quarter, just because our numbers for the last year have been pretty high. Okay, we also will be sending out our manganese notice at the beginning of January. The lab is taking their time getting me December's results. We took a sample the 5th, I believe the 22nd, and we still don't have the result either. So that doesn't need to be posted in the paper till the 10th, but we're still waiting on them. So I mean, we will be putting it out because we well one always exceeds.
Are these raw samples?
Just raw water samples. Yeah, just at well one. You know, it seems to me like we had one that was somewhat high, but they've all been on the low high side, if that makes sense when it comes to exceedances. Like yeah. So like the MCL is 0.3, and we've had some 0.39s. So in the past we've had 0.55. So I think we did have a few 0.4s, but so and it with talking with people, it's still I know we actually responded to a reporter from the Sun Chronicle today about the manganese issues that, regardless of our plan to turn that into a very limited source, hopefully once the plant is fully operational to our expectations, we're still going to have to be putting out this manganese notice because it's still putting water into the system. So it's another one of those forms that kind of gives us a black eye without telling the whole story. So we try to reach out to people on social media or when they call and kind of say all of our distribution results that we took for several years were all below the MCL, or limit for manganese. But it's hard to reach everyone that way. So there's still a lot of misinformation out there.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm confused why we have to know that. I mean, obviously you are confused.
Mm-hmm.
So I know Mansfield did this when we had the boiler situation on the raw water, right? A couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So when did that all come that you have to notify? So what if the raw water is violating drinking water standards?
So at well one, there's no iron and manganese for people. So like at the treatment plant, our wells themselves they're not as high as well one generally, but they may have manganese in it, but the water we're filtering out the manganese in the plant. So even though it's a sample taken at the well, so it's not indicative of the water that's out in the system, but it's still entering the system.
No, I understand, but it just seems bizarre to me that they're basically telling people that our water has manganese in it. Well,
yeah, I agree.
I mean, what? Yeah. I mean, is there any further? I mean, it's just what the rules are. I understand.
It's the rule, and
it's
that one well, and yeah, I mean, it's the majority of the water is being treated for manganese, and there's not coming out of the treatment plant. But we have the one well online that does, and for DEP, we need to continue to notify.
So you have to send out the notice that scares everybody to death that we can't modify. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
You need, it's odd that when I tell people that they can take a $17 sample down to the lab of their own water and have it analyzed, no one really jumps on that, and they have a chance to see what their own water is comprised of.
You're right, though. It's misleading. It makes
Yeah,
people think
it definitely is.
the water they're drinking. It's not anything.
The whole 4-log thing is a fun story too, because if you don't achieve that 4-log removal, and if you get a hit in the raw, now if you're not 4-log, you've got to put a public notice out. But if you're 4-log, you don't. You can get as many hits in the raw, coliform or equalize, and you don't have to put the notice up.
Right.
The groundwater rule is sometimes maddening, but similar to what you're trying to say with the THM's or manganese, right? Public notice.
We're still waiting on, I think, 4 lead and copper samples from the lab. As far as I know, we only had one exceedance, so that's all above the 90th percentile we need to be at, so that's good. 60 because of the change in water quality, putting 5A online. Basically, we had got down to 30, and then they told us that basically until all 3 of the new wells are in the treatment plant, we're going to be at 60. And then after that, it's probably gonna be at least a year before they put us down. So,
I still don't understand that.
especially with
That's-
now that all I see people have to say is that they use point of entry filter, and we lost, I think, 8 sample locations on this last round. I have to tell DEP about because of filters. So that makes me think more, to be sure. I know Frank's been in contact with you guys about the Riley property appraisal. I have a hard copy here if you want to look at it. It appeared at first it was going to be a great location to build a new well, but we found there's real significant limitations based on the proximity to the MFN's groundwater recharge, aquifer recharge. This, along with our withdrawal permit restriction of 200 gallons per minute, now make this property less appealing to us. We were notified this land would be coming available, and the town had the right of first refusal because of previous conversations with the owner and Jen, the former conservation agent. We really don't have much interest in it now. We feel like we could give the appraisal to the current conservation agent, John, and see if they want to obtain land. But it's really something you guys need to think about if you want, but there's really not much use for it as far as we're
We
concerned.
don't have a use for it. I don't think we want
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, say, you know,
So,
it's,
so there's no opportunity for us to get another source out of that.
I
I
don't,
mean, it's considerable amount of property.
right, it's because of the MFN recharge,
Yep.
you know, where Frank and I have talked about it, like, maybe we could get it to be, as far as DEP is concerned, passable. Even we think that could be a small chance. The public would be like, well, I'm drinking water that's, you know, that close to a wastewater recharge facility, so.
I can see that coming up.
Yeah. Today we had Mass DEP on site for well 6A, the inspection of well 6A. There's still some things that need to be tied up. Once we have approval from Mass DEP to run the new well, we feel it would be best to put it through its paces and run it for a few days to work out the kinks before taking well 5A offline for the replacement of that. From what Derek's told me, everything's looking real good. DEP, even though there's things we still need to do, they were pretty impressed with what they did see. From what I gather. So, and other than that, you know, had some time off here and just kind of getting these reports together, end of the quarter, and that's pretty much it. It's and sweet, short and sweet. I do have I believe a notice to proceed letter, and
For the no generator?
yeah, and these are for Nolan also,
Yeah.
right? Contracts. And I also have, you guys last week voted to approve the release of those funds for Campanelli. The town accountant basically just wants you guys to sign something saying that.
We
So
don't have to.
I don't think you will need to vote on it. You already voted on it. So I believe you got to sign both pages.
It's a personal line of credit.
How long has been waiting for that appraisal? 3 years?
What's your question, Steve?
Say that
It
again.
says this appraisal has been going on for.
It's been going on for about 2
We
years.
just got billed for it.
Yeah, I saw that.
We just got built for it?
That's in here.
All right, well, your prerogative.
So next year. That's the appraisal. for that property.
Okay, actually, look,
Talking about.
Not yet, no.
Check that out.
They have to get James to sign. Which is fine.
We.
And we even got the money,
Yeah.
we got the amount increase.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works, so they're not, they were have the money and they just pay the bills, or is it a whole reimbursement process?
Supposedly there's an.
That's my understanding. It's different than drawdown.
Shouldn't be fine.
They,
At least for
they can
yours,
just draw
because
it.
yours is,
I mean, they've been paying our bills.
mine might be 50%.
So Steve, do they have to vote to sign these?
I would
or-
say,
Because
it's
there's a-
safer to do that.
Okay.
And then to issue the notice. So these are the contracts. We get the paperwork back, we get some back and forth with the contractor. This is, Holly Road and Knollwood generators. So all the paperwork's in order now. We recommend, approval and signature of the contract. There are 4 copies
Did you
Here.
see it?
Okay,
It's a
Um,
big
sorry.
movie school.
Okay,
you guys to
sorry.
sign, and
I wasn't
then
sure.
with the execution of the agreements, we recommend. So, these need to be signed, not just by the commissioners, but also the accountant.
Okay. I don't believe the town clerk needs to sign. I think that's just,
I think it's just the
Agreements with
accountant, and
you
there's a
guys.
spot for council to approve as to form.
yeah, I don't,
You guys don't know. I mean, it's the same form
right, yeah.
that's been approved in the past and has been used on the last
Mhm.
contract.
So we're just motioning this.
So
So
I would,
just motion to
suggest
sign
a
it, or-
motion to approve, and sign, to approve and sign the contracts for that project and to issue a notice.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve and sign the contracts with Western Sampson for the Knollwood and Holly Road pump station improvements and issue a notice.
So the contract is not with Western Sampson,
Oh.
it's with the contract, Arden.
With the Arden Group contract.
Okay.
Should I do that over again then? Or? I move to approve and sign the contract with the Arden Group for the Knollwood and Holly Road pump station improvement projects and notice to proceed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now we gotta sign all 3 of these?
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
there are
Just where it says
there's
sign
4
here?
contracts, so. Should be the page.
There's just one spot for,
So that's the spot. Yeah, it's only one spot.
So there's 2 signed here. Tom.
So that's the accountant.
Where this
Council,
one
so
here?
yours is.
Ah, here we go. Okay.
That's with the first.
Yes, I think probably. And then Frank will sign the notice to proceed.
Yes.
All right, Steve. Sounds like we're making some noise already.
Oh, yeah. Go like gangbusters and approve the shop drawings and then. One page.
Just the one, yeah.
I just gotta get-
Oh, this-
Remember this ARPA money.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was just talking to Carol, as far as I know, that money is in the account.
I think it is, yeah.
And they also improved the increase, based on the bids coming in slightly higher
Right,
than the
right.
original award.
What?
So, and then this cover letter just lays it all. out. You guys end up keeping 2 copies, right? One's for us and one will go to our, with the notice.
Right, okay.
So we still need town signatures to these.
The accountant, should sign it. He's- And then so Frank will sign the notice to proceed. Are you guys all set with the dates and stuff on the notice to proceed? It's all- I
It's
thought
usually
that was it
the,
right there.
it's this right here, yeah. We don't have any dates put in here.
So that's still blank. All right, so it's within, so
Thank you.
you'll put today's date
Okay,
for the contracts, and then notice to proceed is like within 10 days of that. So I
Okay.
would pick them on Monday, not this coming Monday, but the following Monday.
Okay.
Right around
all right,
as the official.
okay.
Makes sense?
Vehicle?
January 6th, Friday.
Okay.
When.
So this actually on here has 2022. So I'll fix the dates on there. And
Is it on?
it's on the,
letterhead? So it's on letterhead. Yeah. Yeah, I noticed.
yeah. So I'll have Frank. put that
Because you
on.
got, yeah, that you got that in your system. You have this. This is the cover letter that came in.
Yeah, I got that right here. I believe.
December 20th.
From David Burke.
That's the guy.
Okay.
Double punch.
What's the one you should go with that?
Okay, so, next, Turtle Crossing discussion.
I believe Turtle Crossing will be.
Give us a flag.
Document day.
Did they have it? End of the year deadline?
They talked to Frank and asked if they could be on the next meeting. They were supposed to provide us plans right after the last meeting, and
Turtle Crossing.
yes,
Yeah, I think they were trouble getting their cross section.
yeah, they sent Frank something that I think just showed us where our own utilities were.
Well, they showed us a plan for Newland Street, which I did review, but just an interesting, interesting plan that shows. Good information.
All right, well, next up, we have, Alcohol Farm discussion. Is that, okay. All right, step right on up and.
Could I just ask you, I brought an easel and a plan, so what's the most convenient place to set it up for you? Right here.
Probably right
the thing
there.
behind
Yeah,
you.
sure. Yep. Thank you. Oh, that fancy stuff.
So my name is Bob Forbes from Zenith Consulting Engineer, and we've been working on this project for a couple of years now. We met with Frank at about a year ago.
Town hall, maybe.
Yeah, right at the department. And we got some good input from all the departments. So what this is this is a 44 lot sub. It's breaks down pretty clean. It's 22 lots over here and 22 lots over here on two separate roadways. It's a long cul-de-sac and it's a little road. So we're proposing to, I've talked to Frank a couple of times. We understand that we have to come back to this board to get full approvals and whatever the application process is, through that, of course. But we're at the planning board stage and the conservation commission stage now. Frank suggested we go through that, both of those processes first, and then come to you guys with some final plans for this. But I think we both agreed that it's probably a good idea to come and show you what we're proposing in case there's something that's crazy, and then you can let us know. And we'll of course revise that before we finalize it. Well, I think we're getting close to, I don't want to say approvals from common planning board, but we're getting close to the point where they're going to vote on. So,
Where's Plain Street? I can't see.
this is
Pine Street. Pine Street. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
let me get this up.
No, I got it. Yeah.
So Pine Street up right down
Okay,
here.
thank you.
Your other well is over
right
here
there.
somewhere.
All right.
So what we're proposing on doing is I highlighted the water line in orange. So we're proposing on tying into the I think it's 12-inch main down in Pine Street. Yeah. Tying in here, looping it around, and bringing it all the way out and tying in Bridge Street. And then we're tying it again at the second spot. This intersection. Of course, it's about 8-inch water. So again, we're tying that through, connecting from Pine all the way out to Bridge. We're hoping, I mean, that's much more aware of it tonight. We have quite a vocal people down here that have stated quite a lot. In fact, we've got the main mayor talking to the mayor still earlier. Frank, I early on, I met with the neighbors, said, look, I don't believe this is going to make the situation worse. There's a possibility that the water flowing through your pipe on Pine Street a little bit more, and hopefully we'll see some improvement. Without talking to Frank about that deeper, same. So I think we're hoping that that's going to be the case here. We do have, we are required to do this thing, hydrant here, I put in 2 dots, and then we're proposing fire protection, the hydrants all around, but I know that this commission is concerned with that fire hydrants flushing and whatnot. So we, of course, we put in whatever you want us to do in this area. We're not showing any now, but showing fire protection when we come to the final approval, whatever you guys want to see.
I wouldn't be surprised if I found something at the end of Bridge Street there.
Yeah, no
Other
problem.
than that,
Whatever, like I said, whatever you guys want. Happy.
What's the green?
The green is
Sewer,
sewer,
right?
so we're hoping to connect the sewer, well, not in Bridge Street, sorry. What's the rail trail property? I don't know what you guys prefer, yeah. So there's an existing gravity line up here, and we're proposing to, we can't quite get there by gravity, so we're gonna have to pump it in. Each one of these houses right now is proposed to have an individual pump, pump in a smaller force main. We're probably looking at 2 to 3 inch maybe now for the force main, and we're gonna tie in and try and just put in a manhole up here right before we tie into the line. So that last segment will be gravity flow. So we'll be pumping into a new manhole flow by gravity. Same thing here. We're hoping to go by always it was smaller. Same thing. New manhole here, flow by gravity. That separate. So it looks like we'll have 44 units on water and 40 right now. It's one lot, it's outlying lot here. Probably makes sense for us just to do a septic system, but if this board would like us to, we will. Yeah. So, in a nutshell, that's it.
We need some sort of easement.
Yeah, we'll have to run some, property. It's all under one ship now. Right. That's why we were thinking of just a septic system. And of course, we provided these.
Would that little corner property be considered a budding sewer? And then put them into the 7-year half tie-in?
say that again, Jim?
That property on the corner there, they put the septic in. Is there, there's no sewer on.
There's no
There's
sewer
no sewer
on the
on
street.
Pine.
Okay, so either way, it wouldn't
It's
be
going the
abutted
other
no
way.
matter what. Never mind.
And again, if there is some type of regulation, we'll have
So there's usually the only, because they don't front the sewer itself, there's no connection requirement. I don't know as far as with this being its own subdivision, being pumped right into the MFN. I don't know as far as what's going to be town sewer versus private sewer. Like Red Mill Village, their internal sewer is all sewer. And then from the pump station to Bowling. So with it all being E1 or something similar
like
to that,
Exactly.
I, without Frank being here, I can't really say exactly, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's like normally we wouldn't even let someone tie in across the easement. So with it being its own subdivision and with the sewer potentially not being town sewer, there could be some leeway for that. That's really a board decision. to have to talk to Mike about. Yeah, because there's no pump station. It would all be it would just be going right into the manhole. So all other ones that do that are all private. Ondines, North Cottages, they're all private.
The whole sewer system.
Yes.
So of course, this, for the roadways themselves and all of the structure, there has to be homeowner association, right?
Right. Is this plan to be town accepted road right now?
That's, I don't know if you recall.
I
that
remember that
meeting,
discussion.
But the DPW director, it's required by the planning board regulations that these roads remain private, this type of subdivision. But it's not a zoning regulation, so we're able to ask them for a waiver for that. So we kind of worded it, let them know exactly what the director said. And he was hoping after this thing gets built, they may want to take over the road.
Right.
That's how it's worded. Right. So it's going to probably stay, they're probably going to stay in the homeowners association probably forever. But if the DPW director decides that he wants the roads, then we'll have to.
Yeah, so it's kind of a unique situation where, like, what's the road? Fernandes Circle, Fernandes Circle, that's all private. It's not a town accepted road. So we don't fix anything on that road. But exactly, but so you have also North Cottages sewer line or Condine sewer line. Those are private. They're in the main road, but I believe East Main Street, at least to a certain point, it was a town road. The new state project that's been going on that's kind of I've been getting mixed information about that, whether it is or isn't. I would. So not knowing enough as far as the black and white of it all, where Frank stands on the private sewer, he was kind of not really loving the idea of private sewers for a while. Like the Condine one, I think they left. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you know. They left stuff in the ground so it could be expanded in the future, and then the town would take it over. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if, because it's all just individual pumps going into directly into a manhole. Private sewer. So, but with it not being a town road, I don't know how the water.
And again, the mechanism is going to be in place, so it's completely up to you. Right? You just let us know how you want to do that.
Oh, this isn't a 40B.
No, this is what I think they call it a cluster.
Yep.
So what we had to do initially, we had to lay out lots on the entire property, kind of get a field plan for the number of lots that we would be allowed to do in this project. And that established the fact that we had the ability to do 44 lots. Then we, with the provision that you provide open space, so all of this area is open space. Will be, again, it's going to have a conservation restriction on it. It's not going to be able to be further subdivided. And with the town, the zoning bylaws allow you to do total size of lots by 50%. Okay. So it's kind of a strange thing because the frontage requirement doesn't reduce, so you're not allowed to really reduce the amount of roadway as much as a lot of times. But we were able to go from 80,000 square foot lots down to 40,000 square foot lots. And the town gets, society gets 53. So that's going to also be the thing where it's notify us discussed at the last meeting. That's maintenance of that open space.
Have you guys gone before conservation yet?
Again,
They're okay with, that's what.
this is, so what this does is these, dot dash line. This is shown on the plan that Conservation Commission is reviewing at this point. So we've been able to snake it, so no wetlands impacts.
Okay.
Here and same here, you can see how we're kind of skirting around. So they're happy with that. Interestingly enough, we're doing wetlands crossing here, but the Conservation Commission asked us to do that. Because they wanted us to stay away from these sensitive wetlands. The lots come up and kind of come up further. And we had a cul-de-sac here first go. They asked us to pull those back, move them over here and do the wetlands crossing. So it's kind of an odd situation. We've been in a long process for approval of Concom because of what they asked us to do.
On the sewers are connected correctly. And then that's something that needs to be approved by.
Yeah,
like you guys. So
MFN's
that's
gonna happen.
So the line that you're connecting to is the main interceptor that goes down to the treatment plant. That's not the town of Norton sewer. The main. So that's all pretty- And my only other question there is, so when Frank suggested the manhole, that's what they require, right? And then
Yeah, I don't
allow
think
you
they'll
to
let you pump right
in. So that's why Frank is saying a manhole. My only other question there would be, I don't know if MFN would want the two separate connections, or if they would want to have one where they might
Right,
ask
I
you
was
to
wondering that
run a
also.
parallel pressure sewer where that water goes through, and instead of having two connections,
Right, yeah, I think
have only
that's.
one
I'll
connection.
join them together first.
Yeah,
and-
I like the two, because I'd rather not connect pressure sewers, but I don't know what the, sometimes they want to get a connection to the MFN.
Again, that's exactly what kind of feedback we're hoping to get. So again, absolutely no problem. Just a little bit of shorter run here, so it's preferred rather than.
What is that
going
distance?
authority to bring it over this way.
What's the difference, the distance between the two green lines?
This is 120 scale, so what have we got about maybe 600 feet or so? Approximately.
Are those existing manholes
Yes.
on the interceptor to the farm?
So we got-
They might be fine with it. I would say that's an MFN question.
Have you met before then? Imagine you have.
No, we have not. We've spoken to on Mrs. Brand.
So they may, not exactly sure. I believe North Cottage had to put their own manhole prior. I'm not exactly sure what, it's gonna be relatively simple, whatever they're gonna add. They make you move it to one.
No, not a problem.
They might make you have, again, this depends on whether it's town or not. The MFN likes to have flow meter data as far as when it's actually filling. So they might make you put some sort of a flow meter in, like the ones that anything that pumps right into the interceptor. So I'm not really sure because the only other line we have in town that's really like this is King Philip, which doesn't pump into Mansfield, it pumps into the pump. So kind of a unique situation. I'll have to ask Frank and my dad. But I believe when Frank was talking to Al the other day, I wasn't in the meeting, but I heard him mention something. But that could have been a different conversation. A lot of them have.
So if it does go into one, that'll actually save it on cost.
Right.
Again, not a problem. Whatever approving authority.
How does the billing work with that, John? Do they get you still build them through the town, or would they have a bill directly from there?
Yeah, I wish Brooke was here. I believe they get billed by the town for sewer, and then the town pays the NFA.
So, and would that be based on the flow meter that would go in, or is that the percentage of water? that you
So
use?
what we bill them for is based on the water. But Mansfield likes to bill the town based on flow meter data. So
That's interesting, because now that two different things that are being.
right, because it
They're
it-
not allegedly being saying they're not gonna match. Yeah.
exactly. It's, you have solids and you have, it's basically so they can track I also.
Yep.
I mean, we're going through that with the schools. The school wants to know if they can go from water meter to a flow meter for billing. Yeah, and it's like, I'm not sure that's gonna help you, but so.
So what do you need from us?
I just wanted to, present it to you. Does it make sense to get you guys a copy of the plans? You guys can kind of chew on it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not gonna hurt if there's anything glaring.
I'll send it over to you.
Yeah.
tomorrow morning. You guys can take a look at it. And, once it's Frank suggested, once the process, the planning board and Concom process ends, we'll come back to you with I don't know if it's an application or just a presentation. I'm not exactly sure how that.
Yeah, well, you would just come back with the plans asking to be approved, the final plans, and then you would come to the department, fill out the paperwork.
So that is we certainly have to put the finalize the engineering and all this stuff. So we're showing locations, general idea of what we're doing, sewer, and water.
I would think that you need to talk to Mansfield about to figure out that basically it's going to potentially affect several of them design issues. You probably should talk to them sooner than later.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, whether or not you need two connections or two separate manholes or flow meters and then more importantly, if they're requiring flow meters, I imagine they have the specification of what you're designing around. And then the question is whether or not there is a getting the words, center back to the plant. Or SCADA or something like that may have to be included. Then the question about security or whatever else. I mean, I imagine they have to stand up what they're looking for. Figure out what it is now.
No, thank you.
Do they make radio reads for,
Well, I don't know if they have that nowadays. No idea.
So, I mean, I know that water, yeah.
I don't know if it's even required. I have no idea.
Or is it gonna be similar? I mean, I can't imagine it being the same kind of heat,
Because,
like a regular water meter. I suppose.
Yeah.
Flow meter.
No, it's a flow meter.
Yeah,
So-
it's just
so-
so they're pressure
visual.
lines.
So it's a visual, so.
Yeah, that'd be a box of some sort that's if they even make you have one.
Right.
I
I
don't
don't have no idea.
But
But you should
we could also try to maybe get a meeting together during the day. Like, us and MFN and see if they have something also.
That'd be great. Yeah, that always seems to work the best.
Yeah, they'll probably have a lot more questions than we're probably thinking of right now. That's what's happening and what they require. I like the thought of a manifold. One that sewer line together. Manifold in one. Manifold in one tap. Like, that makes more sense than two
It's-
taps.
what 600 different.
Yeah,
That's different.
it also complicates the hydraulics of the system, just for that last stretch. I mean, I actually don't, I like it as two separate systems with the pipe size. So if you've got a couple of 2-inch lines, then when you bring them together, still a stretch. Actually, just bring it into
Yeah.
It'll go into the same
Yeah,
manhole, so it wouldn't
separate
affect,
lines.
That's
so they wouldn't be
if they're dumping
interconnected.
in,
It would
it
just
shouldn't
go into the same manhole. Yeah. So that is better in that respect, but you're right. It's really up to them. They have no problem with the two connections.
Right, it's their calls, but they
Yeah,
should,
yeah.
they should make the call.
Right, yeah, I would, even if we can't get something together, I would try to reach out to them. It's not Mansfield, it's the Mansfield. Foxborough North
Could you just
Wastewater District.
tell us elevation wise, what is the high spot in this property? Near the wetlands, I assume the bottom, the back of the property is the low part of the property.
It's kind of interesting. This is a higher area down here, so all of these wetlands systems flow down through this way, and right through Pine Street in that way, which is west. But it's not that much different. This is very, very flat wetland. So this is very flat, but this is the old farm, the entrance to the old farm that's still active property line. Very flat. It's down through this wetland area and comes back up. So through here, it's not that much difference in grade. It's probably about 5 feet higher over here. This entrance is a pretty steep hill coming up here now. It's, about 6 or 8 feet here, and then you get the same thing, 4 or 5 feet here. So where you start all these units, where the buildings start, over here, there's not that much difference in grade, but it's up and down. It's going crazy.
So I only asked that because of placement of fire hydrants, and that's when we look at the more detailed drawing to determine where we should have to put in ways we can either lead off of hydrants or just matters where to put the fire hydrant.
Makes sense. Suggestions that you guys have.
Absolutely.
I mean, Al's position on Al is the developer. He's a contractor, site contractor himself, so his company will have to work here. But he wants to do whatever he can to help out the situation. And if there's a water problem, he's gonna have to build his own. So he's happy to do it.
8-inch water mains going up.
That's what we're proposing, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, 'cause it's only 6-inch up here. 6-inch up Bridge Street, 12 down.
12's a new Pine Street water main, right?
Yeah.
2020.
I think that's 6 inch AC on there.
It is, that's what you got, yeah. you got that. I really want to thank you for having me.
appreciate it.
You have a business card, Bob?
I want to say yes, but. Frank,
All right, well, somebody uses them. I'll mold that.
Put it in your Rolodex.
I think so, yeah. You know what a roll is?
Yeah.
It's right next to the fax file.
As far as like the actual approval of the plans, like before, he really likes hard copy. So, yeah. Thank
So
you.
when this is all said and done, we get some sort of file that we can add to GIS, the GIS thing here.
No, we don't require it. Our GIS
Yes.
it's been a while.
We take the plans, we just digitally add them.
But yeah, I would also, like you were saying, get in touch with MFN. You know, whatever they say is best is, you know, then the board can approve or reject it from there.
That's good.
Yep.
Good to see you.
Yeah, appreciate you coming in early with us too, knowing you're gonna come back in again. Instead of coming in all at once, it's nice to see you for a while first.
You don't want any surprises. You don't want you to.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Happy New Year.
Yes, you too.
All right. Steve, you want to go first? I'd like this Pennsylvania
I-
judge to go first.
We'll give her some more time to prepare. Yeah. She's drawing some diagrams right
I
now.
don't have to put my little houses on here. Frank doesn't
and
share all the plans.
I'm pretty much almost done. Because that was the biggest thing was I wanted to make sure we had these and that we're moving forward with that. The biggest thing that's moving forward is we're trying to get going on the Elm Street sewer design through the town, as we talked about before. So, sent over since the last meeting, I did send over a contract. I'm still working to get that executed so we can help out with that. And there's been a lot of back and forth. So that one, the Elm Street design, again, that's the one that's under that one-stop grant. And the applications, pre-applications are out now for the next round.
Yeah, Maria.
Maria. So he moved me in on she's looking for projects and asking a lot of questions. So I think if town really wants to move forward with Elm Street, continue to pursue.
And that only works because it's part of the cleanup of the old site, right?
It's
Property.
jobs and housing.
Jobs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it helps the town because it cleans up that site, and MassWorks likes it because if you do develop that property, you're creating jobs. And then there is a housing component in that stretch. I mean, I know they're
Right.
existing, but it could provide the opportunity for additional housing in an area that already has more dense housing with the town, but also. So that's why MassWorks supported it and funded the design one. I would imagine it would qualify for what I imagine and what I fortunately. So that's really it. Cobb Street is still in limbo. We know where that's at. We are still working with the school. So I think since the last meeting, we had another meeting with the schools. Don and Frank were in on that call, and they do seem they're very interested in moving forward with getting the middle school connected and Solomon's connected to the middle school so they can pump through that old line. And they, as many times as we tell them, they're not in the sewer business and they don't, they're thrilled to have the opportunity to connect. So I think they're looking, the last thing we're going to do under our contract, current contract with them is give them some budget numbers to decide if they want to just do part of it or if they want to do the whole thing and go out and get the money.
So that's gonna be a force line through the old one.
So there'll be a pump station at the middle school
Yeah.
that will now use the line that previously came down from the high school.
Okay, so
They'll just
no one's
go
gonna be
around.
able to tap into that.
Nope, that'll be a dedicated force main for middle school. Solomon East will flow to there and we will size it. So we're limited, it's a 4-inch force main and that's the size. So we'll maximize what we can get out of that. And there'll be the ability maybe to tie in some of the neighborhoods nearby at some point as part of the municipal extension, because that whole corridor of 123 is a needs area. Is an area that ultimately you want to get to. So we're going to be working, between working directly with the town manager on the design, them being the ones paying the bills, through the grant for the design, and then working with the schools, hopefully on a design that actually really connect those schools. That's going to be good for the system. It's good to get more users onto the system. So I think those are the biggest initiatives right now.
Great. Thanks, Steve. All right.
All right. On the water side, I heard John updated a little bit on the THMs and the budget. So I don't know if there's any questions for you, but we're still rolling with our study. We did we sampled all of the sites for THMs, and also we got some HA5 data for the one round when they collected their 4 samples for their requirements. So we had the data, and we knew that there was.
So you're thinking of a mixing system in Carter Street?
That's where we're leaning towards. We haven't done a tank study yet or any of that, so but that's going to be added into it. Our thought process of just kind of getting that rolling.
That's just for the
Obviously,
big tank, the underground tank.
possibly 1 or 2 tanks. Right now, we're still deciding. I mean, that's our whole point of our tank study, would be to evaluate the size of the tank, how much elevated. Long and short, Derek, reduced chlorine roughly end of October, early November. Had a water main break, had a fire. We were not surprised to see some of the higher THMs. The tanks currently have much higher THMs than the rest of the system. You're getting a lot more flow through your system. But so we talked about, adjusting a little bit with moving the water in different directions, closing some valves, trying to do a little light flushing here and there, not just twice a year. Just trying to get a couple of the locations, the water rate down. So we've showed you guys a map. That one, you were here. Who was all here that one meeting, but we opened up the map and kind of theoretically showed when the tanks are offline, not even when they're online, what the water rate is. So there's a significant area for the upper west, northwest quadrant, or so that's most residential, not any large users. So that's your older water age. So we're not surprised that that's one of your higher THM sites. Dean Street is a little bit more interesting. It's possible some of the water actually during the fire break, whatever, came out of the tanks and then eventually got down. So, but it was, of course, a week before we were sampling for a quarterly sampling. So, but we do have samples throughout the entire site for that exact time, that day that we sampled to. So, so we collected that data, presented it. I know Frank and Derek were going to connect a little bit the last week or two, just chat a little bit more. We all know that once we get 5 and 6 up and running, you're going to have a lot more flow. You're going to have a much better flush for the spring. The last couple of years haven't been able to have a significant flush due to COVID, and then the wells themselves. So, but it's, there's a lot of storage in your system right now. And I think that, combination of reducing chlorine, getting some bleeders, making sure you have a little bit of residual traces in certain spots of the system, and then reducing the water in your storage tanks, your ground storage, that you can control. That all of that together will just help with water age and THM formations. But back up if the DEP, if the trending does not change in the next 6 months, which we hope it would once you get the wells online, the mixers with aeration to allow for THM, break down that is a goal for future. But
So you put mixes in these tanks.
potentially.
So these tanks don't have power to them now.
They do. So the large tanks do. They're all actually, they pump there. So there is pumping capabilities, and the mixers are not huge electrical draw. But that would be something we would evaluate certainly during the design.
And with 5 and 6 being online, it would allow us to hopefully have a lower chlorine to begin with all year round, not just in the winter months.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I get it. Bacteria is a worse issue than THM. So,
but obviously I'm not Eric. He's out.
Yep.
He sees way more than I do. But to me, if you're running at a 1.25 coming out of the plant, for no reason you shouldn't be able to have something down the end of the line.
Yeah.
If the water's moving at the rate it should be moving at. So
yeah, we saw some significant. So we took chlorine at each of the sites as well. So we have chlorine residual, and so we have that traced out. And there's a lot of chlorine in your system. So as it stretches and the water age lengthens, obviously that's how the THM's going. So
I have never heard anybody at Red Mill Village complain that the water tastes. Never heard that. I'm just saying.
Good.
I mean, is that a complaint we ever hear about anybody?
when we do, we kind of actually hear it like in the Bay Road area. That's really the only place. The only time I ever get any sort of odor or taste complaint is that in the town. And it's been a long, long time. since that.
It's not super high, sorry, I don't mean to.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just-
It's
no,
not a
no.
compl-
it-
I mean,
it's just
in
more
other
of a-
drink, in
Other,
other,
other
in other
places,
drinking water quality, other areas, people complain about chlorine. I try to explain to them that's a good thing.
Right.
Not a horrible thing.
But if we're putting enough
Each having a
chlorine,
boil oil.
if we're putting enough chlorine in to kill the bacteria and still have a noticeable residual down the end, we don't need really that.
yeah, we can adjust the water flow a little bit to help just not overdose. And it's not an overdose, it's just, it's a conservative dose. And the downfall is that, now compared to 20, 30 years ago, you're just having more just water, age. And the concern really, back in the day, more water was better, right? So you had a lot of large tanks in the system. That was the whole design. That was the goal. Make sure you had a ton of fire flow, a ton for, emergency purposes. And now DEP's requirements are you now have to watch out for the distant petrified product. So,
Until there's a major fire in town. we'll reconsider the whole thing.
exactly. So Derek is playing, he's doing a balancing act. So he's got to keep the tanks full and he's dealing with wells that are low capacity. So once the stress of that is over next year, that's the whole thing. 2023 will be a better year, less stress on making sure we can recharge those tanks.
So what are we looking at, approximately?
Well, we were hoping to
everything
see
being
something a
online.
lot lower this round, just based on having two bleeders set up at one location, one at the other, just to kind of get some flow out there. But Murphy in this area is typical, and of course you have two major incidents right before we're going to sample.
So when do you think we'll have everything online?
So
I mean, I know that's.
yeah, I mean,
Just
so you
curious.
have 5A right now that can pump at that flow rate. 6A, so I'll roll into that. That be a little bit more helpful. So wells 5 and 6, as John said, DP was out on site today. Last week we did I started been testing of all the SCADA alarms and made sure that we sent the pump through its spaces, but we didn't go to the max flow. Prefer to kind of not do that through a hydrant. That's a little bit of restriction too. So maybe we'll try it once it's back into the full system going to the plant. We'll get better time for that. And that'll also, again, have another opportunity to work out the kinks. Anchors is going to be on site to work on 5A. So if there's any issues, we can always tweak it there. We got the water quality samples today, not in time for DEP inspection, but also it's not on DEP forms. So Jim from DEP will definitely want on DEP forms. Once we get that and shoot them over the O&M manuals electronically, just check a couple little boxes that we just want to make sure we have. It's really been great working with the town in general and just, issuing it. I hope by next week you'll get a opportunity to put it online.
Great.
Now, Tara, where are we with the VFD 5?
So far, I've not heard any updates on whether or not they need to go with a soft start for that one yet, but January/February was the planned delivery date, and that will still take a few more weeks till we're ready for that VFD installation anyway. So I'll ask for another update. I know that Christmas time is the worst time to ask delivery folks.
Right.
when
I
everything's
knew they
coming.
were expecting it to be
Yeah.
here for 5A and right there.
Yeah, so that was $3,250 for the soft start for 6A. That was installed, obviously. That's how we got this up and running. We may need to purchase another one of those, or we wait. So I think it's all going to be whether or not get a week or two. Why not just wait for the VFD to arrive? But I
Right.
think they, clearly want a delivery date. That's what we've been just getting rough. Next month. 2 months.
Right.
I mean, it was supposed to be here, I think, originally November or December.
Right. But then they said February.
Yeah.
You can, they'd say, oh, yeah, February 2nd will be, great. But
Yeah, I'll double check
not,
in.
it's kind of worth, what was that, like 30? How much was the soft start?
$3,250.
Yeah. I mean, we want to wait 2 months longer for VFD to come in, or do we spend a little extra to get the well up?
So let me see if I can get a firmer date on delivery.
Okay, I was just curious.
Because they might, if we're waiting for both of them, obviously. So, but 5A would probably go in first, and then we'd switch that, get that online, go back over to 6A and switch out the soft start.
I think we should place a wager on which one will get here first, the VFD for the Cobb Street generator. I don't know.
Oh, you got brought in.
Luckily, I paid attention.
My
This is when-
my
this
hope
is
is
when
the
I had-
VFD.
Yeah, that's where my
No
money
offense
is.
to Steve.
It draws me back to when I had Rockio, and who was the contractor on Elm Street? They were putting in 500 feet a day and Rock putting in a pipe a week.
Yeah,
Butt kicked every meeting.
we wrapped up that project pretty darn quick on Pine Street. It's amazing when everybody stays home and no traffic and you can get stuff done.
Yeah, that was
the
a
first
unique
couple months of
situation.
COVID, but I hadn't been on a
It
job
was a
site.
little different.
So all in all, though, what from the update from what I got this morning from the folks on site, all went well. And the hope is actually, so they've installed the vault for 5 too. So they've done some of the electrical work, or at least conduits. They haven't pulled any wires last week. Got an update this week, but they were focused on the startup. So a lot of the work for 5A has been done. It's just kind of a waiting game right now. But I'll keep everybody posted. Hopefully, we have a lot better news for the next meeting. Other work, Southwestern and East Hodges, probably in the next several weeks, we'll probably get our GeoPro crew out there just to kind of get a little bit of information on asphalt depth and groundwater depth, and then some ledge potential. But I think you guys have dug out there and repaired a lot of breaks over the years, so we have a lot of good information.
Terrible digging, I remember.
The only thing that we didn't really talk about too much before is there is that railroad crossing up by Barrow, and
Right.
so
Yep.
not exactly sure, but we'll meet with you guys and talk about it. We've got a preliminary design kind of laid out. I need to meet my team first, and I'll bring it in. But we'll just
Where was
chat.
this?
Barrows and,
south-
uh,
South
Worcester Street.
Worcester up by
It's an
Barrow.
active line, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Jack
I
under-
know we talking about in the store.
Yeah, so the intersection there is a little tricky, and then we started looking at, you've got a pretty narrow road and you got utility poles right on the edge, and so the question really is whether or not we just want to do bypass along at least a larger stretch of it, or but then you get the railroad, so that stops the bypass. But it's a narrow street, so we're just kind of looking at how we're going to get the new main, and I know your old main is probably going to go like this, and then the gas main is probably going to do the same thing. So we've got, and then I don't think there's any future sewer, but if in case there is, I want to put that right in the center. So we were thinking that if it's AC, the likelihood of that might be safer just to go with the bypass and just in case. We'll work maybe a couple feet off of the existing main, but that's just so thoughtful. So I'll bring in plans once they're ready to kind of just chat a little bit, but we'll fine tune over the next couple months. Historically, railroad permits were not too bad, but I don't know. I'm in a 1.5-year battle right now with them.
Wow.
Nice. Gives me, fills me with hope.
Whose railroad is that? Who's that?
No, I think
It's usually just cargo
Yeah.
trains.
Conrail? Oh, Conrail's
Jack
still
Railway.
on.
yeah, we'll go under it, but they might want to put the little sensors, which we'll put in the permit, but it's just for some reason they're representatives. A little bit of so we'll keep you posted on that, but kind of need to figure out where we want to put the main first, and then Jack under it. Other than that, I think I had pay estimate number 7 actually from Dankers. I was hoping to get White Street closed out this week, but I think they're off on vacation for the holidays. So next meeting, we'll have that pay estimate for White Street. But this is for wells 5 and 6. We're recommending payment for pay estimate number 7 in the amount of $109,750.50.
Isn't that in the-
I don't think I emailed this to Frank in advance, but
I couldn't tell you.
but this is the cover letter. I did not have any sign here tabs at my mom's house. I apologize. But 4 signatures,
You're gonna have to
and
walk
then the
around.
certified paper. But I at least highlighted and underlined it.
Yep. I would like to make a motion to approve pay estimate number 7 for the wells 5 and 6 replacement project. The amount of $109,750.50.
How much?
$109,715.50.
Second. All in favor?
I
What's the 50 cents for?
don't know what 50 cents is for.
Are you
They
done?
got percentages here on these lump sums, so
You done?
I am all set.
Could you ask Gravity to move their equipment sooner than later?
Still out there? Okay.
Yeah, everything is there, all over the intersection.
Okay.
And, once we get a snowstorm, it's gonna be there the whole rest of the winter. Snow will not be there. I believe they fixed the drainage problem at the intersection, because I haven't seen a flood.
I know they went out there.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, we had silt sacks in
No, I
there,
know.
and then I thought they removed the last day they were under construction, so I wasn't
I
sure if the
think they're all
complaints were
set.
before or after, but
But it
yeah.
was really bad there for a while.
Yeah,
but
Frank
it
had
was
said
a
last week that
small
things
lake.
were good.
That's number one.
Yep.
I have 4 other things. I dominate. On the Balfour Farms, the guy who just made the presentation, is it advantageous for us to take over the water main? And if so, they should provide us an easement to do that. That's our only consideration. I mean, to me, it seemed like they're doing us a favor that they're putting it in.
So I think a lot of it has to do whether it becomes a town accepted road or not. I think there's really not much precedent for taking it over if it's not a town road.
Yeah, that wouldn't really make a lot of sense. would
Yeah,
it?
as far as they are doing us a favor, Frank and I had discussed as far as like fees and waiving fees.
Yeah.
They're doing 2 taps, might be in our interest to waive. I mean, they're doing
We're
3
doing 3 with
taps,
the Bridge Street one.
so it might be in our interest to waive 2 of them.
Yeah, but he didn't ask for that today. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
Right,
waiting
yeah,
for
and
that.
it's their job to ask of it from us. They may not. So
So let me put my question another way. If we don't take over the ownership of the water main, and they're out putting all these fire hydrants in, we normally would, based on what I know, is right now we're flushing hydrants on private property. Even though in reality, we should be charging people to flush the fire hydrants on private property.
we definitely do flush on private property. That's for sure. We flush on at Red Mill. We flush at
I understand.
Robin Circle. So yeah, I mean that's
There's an awful lot of infrastructure
Yes,
out there that
yeah.
they're proposing. I don't know, that's why I asked them what the distance was. And I don't know how much that total
Right.
length of
And I
water
think
main
that-
is, but if
in the past there hasn't been as much oversight of private construction as there should have been. So we definitely would make them the hydrants, the pipe, everything to our spec, and probably would have to be checking in over there the whole time. But
I think it'd be very, very important to do that. I know that when Red Mill Village was constructed, well before my time, the town had an inspector of it.
not a great one.
Well, that I can't help. I don't know what,
Yeah.
unfortunately, when I read the reports, I can only tell you what's written on the paper. I don't know more than that. But it really needs, it's very important for us to have a system that obviously is built correctly.
Right.
I mean, it's half of it's in the wetland area or the upland area, wherever it is, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Yeah. So as far as when you said charging them to flush hydrants, I mean, do you mean charging them to go out there and open a hydrant?
No. So in a lot of towns, private hydrants are maintained by the town, but they pay a fee for it.
Right.
And so the town, I'm not looking for Red Mill Village to take my money. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that. I
We should
believe
start
it's already in our policy that we're supposed to be charging people to do that.
Oh yeah, like fire department. That used to be done, and now it's not done. That might be brought up in the future.
So that's an awful lot of infrastructure for a homeowner association to take care of.
It is.
It's only 44 people taking care of that, all that stuff, including they're gonna have their own individual environmental one. It seems to be an awful lot of burden put on homeowners. Plus, they're gonna have to maintain the street. I'm not saying,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, I'm not telling.
Yeah,
them to tell them to
I
take
don't
over.
think it's in our best interest to take it over unless it's a town accepted road. I think that it will become a town accepted road. Because at the meeting we had, it was probably a year ago now, they had discussed that and kind of constructing it to the spec of what highway would want.
Seems to be an awful one. On the right-hand side. They don't leave a plan. Looks like it.
On
One on the
the-
left-hand side is, That's okay because it's a circular road. And the other ones are very, very long. 22 homes. That's like- Again, nothing to do with us. Not the planning board. So just interested about your take on about that. And then the third thing on the this thing here, the appraisal report. What took them so long?
That is an excellent question.
That question.
Steve. That is
You know
an
how
excellent
simple
another
it is,
meeting
how simple it
question.
is to do these
Yes.
appraisals?
It was
And they
supposed
only
to,
paid him $3,600. That's okay, but just saying.
it was supposed to be, it was supposed to be done almost 2 years ago.
All right, so I haven't read it fully, but based on what you and Frank had mentioned about this, do we need to take a vote on this in order to move it forward to conservation, or is this something that?
I don't think so. I
Mr.
think
Chairman, what do you want to do with this?
I don't think we, I've never voted on, well, I've seen anything like that. But I don't know.
Okay, so let me ask the question. We authorize this to be done for the purposes for our interest. How come the land itself, the Riley Family Trust came to us first? Is that something in their deed that had to come to us first?
I believe it had to be offered to the town,
First right of
and
refusal.
they
Okay,
spoke to the
so-
conservation agent, and I believe the conservation agent came to us. That, the
Mr.
beginning of that was,
Mr. Riley, I believe, came to one of our meetings once. The owner
It
of
must
the
have been
property,
well back in July
because he was
2021.
going back and forth with his family. The family wanted to do it different, sell it outright, or whatever they would do. He wanted to give us the first right.
Okay, so somehow that came to us and we authorized the appraisal, which is fine, and it's 11 acres. I don't know, I can't tell what it contains. But it's very close to, I guess, the leaching field for treatment plant, within a mile, a half a mile next to it.
it's, yeah, I would say as the crow flies, probably within a mile, for sure. It's right off of Crane Street, and the MFN recharge is right off of Hill Street.
And
so
how close is this to our wells, if anywhere? There are wells.
it's very close to well one.
All right, so if we don't buy it, we don't buy it, meaning the town of New. Is it possible it can be developed as a subdivision?
I don't know.
I mean, what I'm saying is it better we buy it, put into the conservation area, then somebody's gonna be developing. I imagine it's only going residential.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're not gonna let anything be built there that wouldn't be allowed in a zone one or zone two anyway. So,
If the town does not buy this, whether it be us or anyone else, I think they could build on it. You know, remember Mr. Riley? I remember him coming in. He was talking about his family wanted to.
Okay, so if they build on it, is that gonna affect our water quality development? Kind of like the long
Well, they still,
question
well,
that I'm trying to
they still
ask.
have to be in the zone one.
They'd have-
zone two.
Yeah, so the zone one for one, I don't know exactly.
Oh,
where
I'm
the
sure we're
property is,
not-
But
yeah.
the zone two, they just would need to be in compliance with zone two, and it's residential.
right,
predominantly.
if you're looking at well one from the road, it's to the northwest, sort of that.
No, I understand we have to meet all the setbacks. I'm just saying that if we're gonna, this is our chance to protect well one aquifer. And whether or not you believe about the zone one or the zone two and the distances, all that stuff, it really takes one gasoline spill and it's all toast. But it doesn't really matter what you believe about all that stuff, right? It's just numbers. It's all that the other stuff. I'm just saying that if we want to somehow protect our land. And I don't know
I'm not
anything
against
about it.
the idea, but it's, I think what's it listed at $600,000.
And do we have, in this town, the ability to buy it through, that tax we put on sales of property? People buy property. What's that called? Anyway, we have that. What? Forget what that's called. But maybe we don't have it. Later.
I know nothing about real estate at all, so
I mean, if can the town buy this? Would have the appropriate town meeting, or is there a
I
fund
would
fund
think
to
so,
do
yeah.
that, or what?
Yeah, I think it would have to be a town
So
meeting
if
or-
we're not interested, then we should pass this along to conservation and then have them take a serious look at it. And hopefully they come up with a recommendation for.
I would be surprised if they do, knowing conservation budget. I don't think that most likely will happen.
So there's
Um,
unequivocally, sorry. There's no way this could be ventured into another well source for us.
We were not asked to look at that, and I don't know what's in that report. If that was something that they looked
They being,
at, whoever that company is.
oh, I don't think they looked at it.
I don't think they looked at it as far as setbacks wise.
So
It-
just out of the pure numbers, it's a little over 11 acres. You'd have to have a well right in the center of it to get your 400 foot. And if it's a giant circle, get your 400 foot radius to get your, let's say roughly 11 and a half acres for zone one. So the likelihood is very slim. You definitely need to purchase more land around it or at least get easements. DEP would prefer for new source to have 100% control of your zone.
So that's an easy answer. So now, then, if that's the case, then we should pass it on to conservation. Let them
Right.
do it. That's all I'm just
You
saying.
have roadways
We
that
need to do
are
something with
overlapped.
this,
Right.
as
Yeah.
opposed to not doing anything.
Are you thinking if conservation ends up not wanting that we should reconsider fully?
No, I think if it serves no purpose for us, then it's up to somebody else in the town to buy it. And it makes sense for the conservation to buy it because that's.
Yeah.
they buy it.
I just don't want to pass it up if there's a slight chance that we could use this for another source.
We could do a desktop study and just think, but we, typically would do test wells and just kind of investigate if it looked like it would be a
Would that
viable
be worth
option.
doing? you think?
Sure.
Does this land abut the land that well one is on right now?
I believe it. I believe in the corner, the back corner, I believe it does. It should be in there.
Yeah, do you guys have the maps of, I know you probably don't have them printed and up on the wall anywhere, but
Get old.
when zone ones and zone twos are, you have those maps that are free.
When you sell your
Take a look
property,
at it.
For the well, for the well.
I don't know. You sell your property, there's a certain percentage goes in the fund in order to buy land, build affordable homes. Felt something. Just think about it, man. We had it. And it was the perfect opportunity to save money for the purposes of buying something. Buy and building affordable homes. And other good purposes.
I mean, I recall, I thought Jennifer was interested in it a couple of years ago, but I just have no idea what the,
Unfortunately, Jennifer's not
right,
here anymore. We're
Exactly.
gathering different.
I mean, me personally, I'd rather exercise all options.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
mean. I think
Down the road.
we should be doing something as opposed.
there's
to
the potential that if it's protection for water, if it's in your zone two, that you have the option to potentially protect your water source for zone one, for well one.
So-
And potentially talking to planning board if it's part of their open space plan or their
Stable
master
with-
plan. I don't know. I've never read that, but combination of the three departments potentially. One town, so.
I personally would like. That'd be my.
All right, so I don't know what we need in order to do that, but I think we should explore it and to put it to bed when we leave.
Agreed. I
I
agree.
mean, now that we got the stupid report that was
Yeah,
waiting for a year and a half,
I wish it was only a year.
well, based on that, they got hired in July of 2021. Or he made actually, that's not true. He made a site visit in July of 2020. So I don't know.
I
when he
thought
got
it was
hired.
like 3 years.
Was the initial intent for this to see if it would serve as a new water source? That water
Yes.
would
I haven't read it,
store
so I don't know what it really
Yes, it
says.
was.
So if that report's electronic, that'd be, I don't know. It's just that.
I do have a PDF of it.
If you can email that, that'd be great. And then I'll
I mean,
let you know. I mean,
It's
we
worth
can look at
kicking
the,
around.
we can look at the maps and just the hydrogeo.
Okay.
It could be pretty quickly. And our folks have been looking at that area anyway, because we talked about the well too, and there was questions back a year or two ago by DEP, Water Management Act. It's like, can you pump out a well one more? And we're like, what, we have a brand new treatment plant. No, it's not, the water quality is that good if it's not treated. Fully. Filtered, I should say.
Thinking down the line.
So, but I mean, that's the other option. If you had, if it was possible, I mean, we'll at least take a look at it. And we can look at the report and just see if there's anything in there on that.
I think it's worth whatever it costs us to do that, to do, as you said, right. So
I mean, we're spending we spent $3,300 on it, whatever it was, 3,250, whatever. I mean,
I'm trying to look.
All right, I have two other things. We talked about fluoride last time. We tabled it. We didn't officially do that, by the way. There was an article in today's Chronicle about North Attleboro's failure to notify the general public that they stopped adding fluoride because they didn't have the chemical. And then they just announced that they were about to start it up, but they only had enough chemical until like February or something. So it stirred up the hornet's nest regarding that. So what happened was, if you don't know, I was called by the Board of Health agent about a month ago because, and I didn't even tell the board this, because they had a hearing, they had a meeting, a Board of Health meeting, and a resident of Red Mill Village attended the meeting and I don't want to say made a big stink about fluoride, but basically raised the issue about why Norton doesn't have fluoridation. So for some reason, my name was brought up saying that, well, I spoke to someone, Steve Bernstein, and therefore you should call him because he's the one wanted about it. I don't even know how I got involved with this whole thing. I barely even know the guy. So for some reason, she called me where she shouldn't really call Frank. I mean, but she didn't really know. I don't know if Frank even knows her because kind of like didn't even know why we had, but even the fact that we had manganese in our water. She asked me all sorts of questions about that.
that's what,
I thought the whole thing was kind of strange, to tell you the truth, how it actually came to me. So I brought it to Frank's attention and the commissioner's attention. Basically, our feeling is, to paraphrase, why would we add any more chemicals to our water system?
Exactly my thoughts.
Right? I mean, that's basically what you all said. Kind of like, oh, by the way, you don't even know what you all said, but that basically what the conclusion was. Why would we want to add more chemicals to a system which is now even more highly regulated with more chemicals like test for? And then I imagine if you exceed it, have to send out notification to everybody that we're exceeding.
And it's tough to get right now.
And it's impossible to get right now, but that's beside the point. And I'm not even sure there's a good place to actually add.
93% increase from last year. I just ordered something. 93%. It went from $3,000 for 2 pallets to $11,000. Something stupid like that.
Where is it made? I don't, must be made in China.
Yes,
China.
China.
Of course, China.
Like potassium permanganate used to be China. Is that where it still comes from?
I'm not 100% sure where that comes from anymore, but I know that it doesn't get here. The train stopped. So
So I don't know what to do with the fluoridation.
I
Hang
can
him.
double check to see if we evaluated that in the treatment plant, but typically newer systems that haven't been using it, most people are brushing their teeth and have fluoride in their toothpaste. So, yeah.
That, beside the point. We all understand that. It's again, we're not.
But I don't know if we actually evaluated during like the 10-year process of looking at the treatment.
So she came to me sort of unofficially. I would think Frank might want to reach out to her.
I'm still confused as to who it was because the health agent. So
Oh, then I'll. Didn't I forward you her email?
possibly, you might have forwarded it, Frank. I don't.
I will
I've
forward
never seen
you.
Wouldn't this all have to go to town meeting anyway?
No. It's a town vote. It's a town vote, but before you bring anything anywhere, it's gotta have to be due diligence. And I don't know what. I mean, she sent me, I don't know, 12 questions. It wasn't it was, and she said we should talk to North Attleboro and several other communities. And their
These 12
experience.
questions?
Yeah, those 12 questions. There you go.
Oh.
People barely.
But I don't,
pay for the water
I
they
don't
have.
remember who I spoke to, but I think there's out my notes.
I got a whole folder ready to go last meeting. I'm more than happy to do that.
No, I think we need a general discussion. I don't know if we really get in the details of it. I don't know what the procedure is, how to get, whether or not we need to meet with the Board of Health or, I mean, it's silly for me to address all those questions. These are the details. This is devils in the details. The bigger question is whether or not we even want to venture into this. You know, it's a big project.
I don't remember the state starting us off pretty well in or low cost, but I mean, they're talking about is the infrastructure of getting all this started is a whole new ballgame. Saturators and however they're gonna, everything that's involved.
Well, she
This
made
is
it
cost.
sound like somebody else is gonna pay that bill.
Okay.
But still, whether or not that's true or not, doesn't matter. But again, that's a detail. But to me, the bigger question is, if we've already looked at it, to me, that's more important. We should go back to the thing, we've already looked at it.
Yeah, I agree.
If the Board of Health wants to make a bigger thing, look, with the Board of Health issue, we
Right.
feel that from the health of the community, we should pursue it. And, you know, there are a lot of things in the world that are not just water supply issues. Sometimes they're Board of Health issues, sometimes it's conservation. Whether it's a bigger thing here.
That's what came.
Fluoridation's always been pretty controversial subject forever, as far as I can tell.
No, there's a lot of pros and cons. That's why it's so controversial. There's so many good pros and cons.
In the case of North Attleboro's residents, they did not know they were having their water fluoridated for the last year or so, which I think is kind of funny, sort of funny. And I don't even know if they're supposed to notify people.
Oh.
I'm just saying. that it's-
DPH is pretty, they're the ones that we report to. For all the fluoride stuff, they're just as stringent as DEP is.
Right. So do we want to bring in another overseeing body? Water quality.
I'm not saying, I don't know what to do with this information. I don't know, I think she's expecting me to get back to her to say, but I don't think I should be the proper channel to do that. I think Frank should be talking to Board of Health or something.
Right.
To figure out whether or not this is really something we should.
Does the
waste our
Board
time
of
on.
Health support this? Do they support this idea? I mean, how many?
She
people
wants
are-
all those questions answered before they even, you know, again,
Who's this? This person that,
yeah, I'll dig you up the original. And I'll make sure everybody gets it.
do you want me to answer any of these?
No, I don't think we're ready to answer any of them. I think it's really the bigger issue, whether or not we want to go there. And if we don't want to go there, we should never.
Well, I
reason
think
why we
he's
don't wanna go
the biggest nut. You had said it. Do we want to add another chemical to our system?
That's
It's something
my-
you can
my
get,
biggest
if you
thing
wanna
is-
add it, people can just buy the pills.
All right, so-
Unnecessarily add chemicals
So that's
to our
that. I don't know
water
how, what to do with that, but in fact, we should think about that.
system. And we want to be in the business of medicating.
And that's
Well,
what
that's
this is.
really,
This is
again,
medication.
we're-
It's-
I think what happens is we're the way the fluoride gets in the system, and then the Board of Health, EPA, is then involved with the health. I think it's, again, we're just the mechanism for it to happen.
Right.
You know what I
You
mean?
said that.
We're just- My fifth thing is, I brought this up almost a year ago. I would really, and I think we all agree, that we would love to have a tour of our facilities.
Stopped asking. Almost
Right,
a year
but I
ago.
think with you two here, I think we should plan to do something in the springtime. It would be nice to go to the treatment plant, to our wells. I'd even like to see where these tanks are. I'm just saying, I know we don't have to spend a lot of time at it.
Please go to all the sewer stations too. Don't
I know,
just
I
the-
know, no, I want to do that also, but I really would.
Brand new.
I was tempted to call you up to say the next time you're out here, I'd like to tag along, but I know Jim wants to do that also.
I would love to-
And I don't
see that.
want Jim to be mad at me that I have this opportunity that he doesn't, so.
No, it's good. It's good to see. it. Absolutely. It's
No,
fascinating.
No, I think we owe it to ourselves that instead of us just talking about these things here that we're seeing in person.
Yeah, I mean,
Agreed. That's a great idea.
we did a tour once the plant was online, but you guys are new commissioners. so go
I
for it.
know
Go
we're
for it,
new,
Yeah,
and again, I
and I think we can all agree that COVID is not a reason to not do a tour
Yes.
anymore, so.
I want to do it not to add any burden. I don't want this to be that you have to clean everything up because we're going to make inspections. Not the purpose of that. We're not the DEP. We don't care about all that stuff. We really just want, I think, we just want to see the facility. I
Are
don't
we
think
allowed
wanna-
to meet as a group and tour the facilities if it's not a?
You could do an executive session
Okay,
before
we
one
just
of these
call it an executive
meetings,
session.
or we could do a separate meeting. You just need, you do, it's
You at
more
least
than two
know
of
that
you,
we're
if
meeting.
two of you or more get together. You can-
Again, I don't think it's our purpose to point out the fact that something's broken or whatever else. I don't think, right? You agree?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's your job. I don't, we're not telling you how to do your job. We just want to see the facility. I think it would be. Steve, have you seen a lot of these things?
I've seen a couple of my day.
Jim and I talked about doing this, so and again, I don't know how many times you've done it, but I think something in the springtime, convenient to both you and Frank and.
Yeah, I don't think.
Do it in the beginning of May, Water Week. You know when Water Week is?
And again, it doesn't have to be all day, it can
I
just
feel like
be,
water weeks every week.
I'm just saying, no. Cause I, you know.
Wouldn't take all day anyway, no, it's not that big.
Well, as I said, you could spend an hour in each facility. It's
Yeah.
not the purpose of the exercise. The exercise is really just see what we have.
And by then, the wells will be online, so.
Yeah, that's what you say, but I don't believe you.
Maybe the generators, who knows?
That's all I
Generators,
have.
yeah.
Sorry to dominate, but I've been saving
Just
all
want
that
to see
stuff
the
up.
new VFD. That's a real thing or not.
That might be on soft start still,
Okay.
but it'll be running.
All right. Excuse me. All right, anything else that you want to bring up?
No, the only thing I might say is just to give a heads up, I've got a work thing for basically the month of February. I'll be in New Jersey.
I don't know if that's a.
I'm trying to work it out
I don't think
so I can get a couple days off and come back to meetings, but it's more than likely I'm gonna have to miss 2 meetings in a row. Or 2 meetings in
We
February.
only need to. Don't stress yourself out about it. You know?
I mean,
Maybe we
You could
decide
be
to
on
meet
the-
once a month.
you
Tom.
could vote.
If we meet once a month, I'll only miss 1 meeting.
That's right.
It's true.
If they need you
I
for a
I should be
vote,
good
then,
throughout January, but February.
Yeah, you could join on your phone if you wanted to, but
if they needed you for a
It's not-
vote,
Okay.
you could be part of a vote remote.
I probably would be available to do that, because that would be it. Anything prior to 5 o'clock. I'd be-
So the meetings in February, Valentine's Day,
Uh-oh.
and I guess the 28th. I'll let you know.
Oh, my first car on Valentine's Day.
So I asked John, before you guys came into the room, John meant to ask Mike, you know, about whether or not we can reduce our meeting time from 2 to 1 month. Yeah, he'll follow up and then.
So the next meetings then we'll have on, will be January 10th and the 24th.
Right.
Sound good?
Tuesdays, right?
That's super. All right. Old business, new business, anything else?
All right, I motion to adjourn our meeting.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Happy New Year, everyone.